The SunZia project is a huge deal. It is being described as the biggest clean energy infrastructure project in American history, an $11 billion wind farm and transmission line stretching from New Mexico toward Arizona and California. And to be clear, that is not nothing. America needs more electricity, data centers need power, manufacturing needs power, homes need power, cars, heating, industry, everything keeps moving toward the grid, so building new energy is not optional. And if the conversation is whether wind power is useful, the answer is yes. Wind works, wind is clean, wind can be built at scale. SunZia alone is expected to produce around 3.65 gigawatts of capacity, enough to serve roughly 1 million homes. That is the good part, but there is another part of the story that should not be ignored. Land. Because reporting puts the SunZia wind project across roughly 825 square miles. Now that does not mean every square mile is paved over or destroyed. That distinction matters. Wind farms are spread out by design, and ranching can still happen across much of the land between turbines. Cattle can still graze. Roads, turbines, substations, and transmission infrastructure take up only part of the total area. So this is not the same thing as saying 825 square miles became a giant concrete slab. That would be dishonest. But it is still 825 square miles of energy infrastructure. That is an enormous footprint. It changes landscapes. It requires roads. It requires power lines. It requires maintenance access. It affects viewsheds, wildlife, local communities, tribal concerns, and land use politics. And this is where the nuclear comparison becomes hard to avoid. Plant Vogtle in Georgia produces roughly 4.5 gigawatts of nuclear capacity. Depending on how you count the site, it sits on around 5 square miles. So one project spreads 3.65 gigawatts across hundreds of square miles. The other produces more power on a few square miles. That does not mean nuclear is perfect. It is not. Vogtle was extremely expensive. It ran years behind schedule. It became a warning label for how badly American nuclear construction can go when costs, regulation, financing, and project management spiral out of control. But here is the problem. Even with all of that, Vogtle now exists. It produces massive amounts of carbon-free electricity, day and night, on a tiny land footprint compared with utility-scale wind. That should matter. Because if the goal is clean power, then land use should be part of the conversation. Reliability should be part of the conversation. Transmission should be part of the conversation. Capacity factor should be part of the conversation. Wind is useful, but wind needs space, transmission, backup, storage, and geography that cooperates. Nuclear needs money, time, political courage, and a regulatory system that can build without turning every project into a generational hostage crisis. But one of those problems seems more solvable than covering more and more land with sprawling infrastructure forever. That is the point. But this should not be an anti-wind argument. SunZia is impressive. Green energy is good. We need more clean electricity, not less. But if America can spend $11 billion in nearly 20 years building one massive wind and transmission project, why is nuclear still treated like the strange option? Why is the clean energy conversation so often about how many more turbines, panels, and power lines we can spread across the country, instead of how many dense, reliable nuclear plants we could build if we actually committed to it? Green energy is great, but if we are serious about clean power, land, reliability, and long-term energy demand, then the question becomes obvious. Why are we not going all in on nuclear too?